everybody, and welcome to the Katie Weaver Show. This is Katie. I am your host, and I'm so excited to be here. It is a wonderful day. It's Halloween. You know how much I love Halloween. So I'm glad that you are here. So if you're listening live, it is October 31st at 11 a.m. Pacific, 10 a.m. Pacific, sorry. And here we are. If you're listening to an archive or a replay, I want to welcome you to the show also. I also want to let you guys know that we're over in the chat room. You can get there by going to 12radio.com. That's number 1, number 2, radio. Click on the chat button and you'll be redirected into the Facebook chat. It is a private group, so you'll want to ask for entry, but Christy's standing by and she'll gladly let you in the room. So now you know. I want to also let you know that I have the live stream going. So I am doing Facebook Live through the chat room as we speak. So you can find that over there as well, right in the Facebook chat. So lots of ways to connect today. I'm hoping I make it to the chat room. My computer's being really slow. There we go. I'm going to make it to the chat room, by hell. Okay. Not like I can restart my computer, right? Well, I do hope you have some fun plans for today. Or if this is a day that you're not a big fan of, that you have some easy plans of staying home and staying in, or whatever works for you. I know Halloween isn't everybody's cup of tea, and that's okay. I used to know people that would sequester themselves in the basement with all the lights out, front light off, indicating we are not doing trick-or-treating, so don't come here. And to be honest, we usually aren't home either, because our neighborhood doesn't trick-or-treat. So they do a trunk-or-treat. And so it's funner for us we usually go down to my sister Kara's house and play games and have some fun. And now that my kids are older and they don't really do Halloween with their parents anymore, we're just kind of free to go do our own thing, and so we will. Okay, I have so many things to tell you guys today, but the first thing I want to tell you is today is our Ghost Stories show. So I have some ghost stories to share with you. I would also love it if you wanted to share any with me in the chat room. I will likely share them on the air. I want us to, once we've done our regular segments around here, gather around the proverbial campfire and tell some stories, some ghost stories, right? Okay, so I would love to see your stories. This is your opportunity to throw them into the chat. Don't put them in the Facebook Live chat. I won't see them. They won't last there long enough for me to share them. There's a banner at the top of the page in the chat room. That's where you've got to put them if you want me to see them. Everything just moves too fast for me to be able to come across it. I want you to know we are on sale today over at One Two Listen for Halloween. It's randomized pricing, so the computer assigns us various prices throughout the day. Some deeper than others. Really a fun day. It's our trick-or-treat, mostly treats. Hopefully all treats for you guys. And I hope that you come over and check it out. I'll be there most of the day. Except for that, there's also, see, I told you this is a big day. There's also something else really special happening today. And that is Christy and I are guest hosting for Melissa Caprio today. And so that is just here in a couple hours here on 1-2 Radio. So we are doing a dark entity panel by request of you guys. We're going to be talking about dark entities. This is a portion of Christy and I's work that we've been doing for years. It's something that a lot of people are quite uncomfortable with and uncomfortable talking about. And lots of healers are uncomfortable working in that space. And so we're going to talk about it. We're going to share. I think we'll pretty much have our gloves off. All questions are valid. I would really like to hold that space with you guys. So I do hope that you can join us for the Dark Entities show on Melissa Caprio's show. And thank goodness, how sweet of, I guess I should say, how sweet of Melissa to be out of town and be so generously loan us her space so that we could hold the space with you guys today. Okay, so I've been talking for a while now, well, I talked a little bit, I guess, about a project I've been working on. I've been working on creating a candle magic kit. I just wanted to make one kit that I could sell and that would be beneficial to you guys, to not just you guys, you know, but just to people who need it. And so that kit is finally complete. It's finally for sale. So I posted a link in the chat room. I'm going to tell you all about it. You can find it over on Scott's Facebook page. Scott has a Facebook page called Joyful Goddess, and Joyful Goddess is where we occasionally put something together that we sell out of there. So I want to tell you about the candle kit. It is an abundance candle kit. So I'm going to show you guys in the live stream what it looks like. It comes in this nice little lame bag. I love these little bags for holding all of your stuff. I have a billion of these because your magical stuff needs a magical place, right? All right. It comes with 2 green candles, green of course, for abundance. It comes with, of course, a candle holder. We went with the little silver star ones. I really like these because what I found in the chime candle holders is that they vary in size a little bit in the opening, and sometimes they are way too big for your candles. Sometimes they're way too small. I think part of that is that the candle size sometimes varies a little bit, and it's so annoying when your candle won't fit in your candlestick. It's either tipping over or it is you're cramming it in there and trying to shave a little bit off of the bottom to make it fit. So I really like these because you can adjust them. You squeeze the top and make your candle fit. So these are my favorite little holders for that. Okay, your candle kit comes with some incense. This is called Limitless Incense. It's a powder. It's a loose incense. This is handcrafted. This is an incense that I developed and made specifically for this kit. So of course it also comes with 2 little charcoal bricks in order to burn said incense. You might be noticing a theme of 2. This kit is big enough in order to be able to do this spell twice. So you would do it now, set it aside, do it again when you feel like it. And then it comes with a bottle of anointing oil. So that's an anointing oil for your candles. It's also a handcrafted oil that I developed and made specifically for this kit. So I just wanted to give you guys an opportunity. And then to me, one of the coolest parts of it is the Candle Magic page. This is of course, wow, I'm void of thought. There it went. This is the instructions. I designed it and printed it on really special antiqued parchment paper so that it could be a page for your Book of Shadows or your grimoire if you keep one, or just to go in your binder of stuff. Every metaphysical person I know has binders and binders of information and pages and trainings and, you know, stuff they've gathered. So I wanted to put this on a really special page. It took me days to design this. Probably someone with more solid skills it wouldn't, but mine are always growing. So anyway, it comes with a very, you know, a special sheet of instructions. So that is what the Candle Magic kit looks like. I thought that from now to the end of the year, this seems to be when a lot of people start feeling a real financial pinch, partly because of the holidays, partly because of taxes, partly because it just seems like this time of year, commerce can go down. People aren't maybe working as much. You know, for some people, I'm sure it's a boon, but for many people, I know it becomes a part of the year that creates a hardship. So I thought, what kind of a candle kit could I make that would just help support people through the end of the year in a really meaningful way? And you guys know I have a huge testimony of candle magic, and so this is what I came up with. So again, I put a link in the chat room if you're interested in it, but also you can certainly go find it over at Joyful Goddess on Facebook. So either way, that's the way to find it. And this is probably the only time I'll really talk about it on this show. I'm really not here to promote products so much, but so I'll give it to you once and then I'll just keep running it over there. How's that? Okay, I think we got a lot of the nuts and bolts out of the way. Seeing a few ghost stories come up. You guys rock. That is exactly what I was hoping for. Oh, I want to have a fun show. Okay, well, let's do this. Let's go check out Luminous. Luminous magazine, of course, you guys know it comes out. I publish it. It comes out at the first of the week. It's a compilation of work between me and several of my colleagues over at One Two Listen. So I put a link in the chat room if you'd like to follow along with me, but there's some things I always want to bring your attention to. So first, a note from me. And yeah, we had a fun weekend. We actually got a chance to go to Boise to see our son, go to his last home football game. It was pretty cool. And they actually, this team started out rough. They lost their first 5 games. And now they're just on a roll. They've won their last 4 games, and 3 of those were games where they unseeded ranked teams. They're not ranked because they lost so many games. But so there's 250 NAIA schools in the US. So there's a pool of 250, right? And they have now knocked out the number 13 team, the number 14 team, and the number 16 team. Isn't that wild? But it kind of sucks because they're not going to go to the playoffs, but they're in the process of making sure that no one else in their district goes to the playoffs either. That's kind of sucky, but that's football, I guess. Anyway, I'm sure they're really hated right now for that one. But at any rate, so they blew out a ranked team, which was kind of a fun game to go to. But here was the really cool part. Our daughter, her best friend, plays volleyball on our school team, on our high school team. And they were playing in the state tournament that was also happening in Boise at the same time. So we got to Boise just in time on Saturday morning for her first game, the semis. And in 5 sets, 5 absolutely grueling sets, they won it. And they beat a team that has never been beat this whole year. And it was so cool. You guys, those girls were so powerful. I have been so inspired by watching our girls play softball, but I'll tell you what, volleyball is nothing to sniff at. Holy cow, those girls worked hard. They never gave up. They worked, it was amazing. And this team has not made it to the state playoffs in 26 years. So, you know, it's a big deal. Anyway, we watched them win that game. We jumped in the car. We raced over to Micah's school, watched the football game. As soon as it was over, we got back in the car. We raced back over to the state tournament and got to watch them win the state championship, which was amazing. I have no words for how amazing it was. And emotional. Oh my goodness, you guys. After they won, these girls cried until I cried and cried and cried just watching them. It was so sweet. Their sisterhood was so sweet and the way they played. But the really cool thing was we were waiting outside of the gym after the game for Izzy, Mars's best friend, to come out so that we could tell her goodbye. And she walked out of the gym with her dad. And when she saw Mars, she burst into tears, threw herself on Mars's shoulder and sobbed and sobbed and sobbed. And then she sobbed in my arms. And then she sobbed in Scott's arms. And then she sobbed in Micah's arms. And she was so emotional. And she should have been. It was crazy what happened in that gym. But the warriors in those girls, oh my God. It was just so cool. Seriously, one of those moments that you go, you know what? This is something that will stay with me forever, this experience. Just watching the tenacity. The game that they won in order to win the championship, they were down by 10 points. And in volleyball, that's a lot. You play to 25. They were down by 10 points. Things were looking really bleak. And then somehow they found something inside of themselves to keep fighting, keep going, and came back and won it. And the team they beat has won state the last 3 years in a row. So it was a huge accomplishment. So anyway, it was just an awesome thing. All these life experiences we get to have, it just makes life so amazing and delicious. And the human spirit is so amazing. And it was a pretty cool experience. So anyway, that's what my weekend looked like. And we celebrated Scott's birthday, which was also a lot of fun. So I am calling this week's magazine the We Are One edition because, well, we are. We've got to start acting like it. This on the heels of the shooting in Pittsburgh over the weekend that has just left everyone feeling so raw and empty and shocked and disgusted, and there's just no real words, you know, except for that this has to stop. It has to stop. The violent rhetoric has to stop. The violence has to stop. We have got to get a hold of this before it gets worse. And every time I think it can't get worse, then by God, a Holocaust survivor gets gunned down for being a Jew, you know? I don't have all the answers, you guys. You know I don't. I know you don't. But I know this has to get better. And I know it starts with every one of us being diligent, standing up for what is right, and demanding some changes in our administration. That's where it's at for me. I don't know what else to say. Okay. And then, of course, my new blog. It's my memoirs, mostly for me, sometimes for you, talking about body image and my own body image and how it, what started in my life in 5th grade that really started me on a bad path of hating my body. So I think it's a really important conversation for us all to have, partly because I know that many of you have had similar experiences. And I think sometimes we just need to evaluate stuff like this and figure out what we still believe, what could still be inside of us, what became a core belief, what we can let go of. Does it still hurt to say it, to read it, to hear it, to write it? Or can you say that in a matter-of-fact way? What is still inside of you that you don't want to carry? And that's one of the things that I think memoirs really helps with. There's fun stories, there's funny stories, there's wonderful memories, and then sometimes there's the really painful stuff. And I think it has to be written for us. That's when it's mostly for me, probably, right? Okay, so this is the last time this will be in the magazine, but this is just a note that the Domestic Mystic Daily Dish is now a daily email reading. A lot of you guys have subscribed to it. I send it out to you. Comes out at 6 o'clock my time every morning, and it's just a great little peek into the energy of the day. So I'm going to put a link in the chat room one more time, and then we'll quit talking about this. But this is how to get the Domestic Mystics Daily Dish. You just have to subscribe to it. Easy enough. And then every morning you'll get that email from me. Really enjoying that, by the way. I think it's turned into a really great way to do it. Alrighty, and then of course we have my November reading special. So my November reading special is a 30-minute reading. Sometimes, we do a lot of 15-minute time-based sessions. I do a lot of 15-minute time-based sessions, and I really love them. But I'll tell you what, often at the end of 15 minutes, the client goes, oh man, that time goes fast, and it does. So if you're one of those and you feel like maybe we need to go bigger, deeper, have more time, this is your opportunity. So this is marked down pretty heavily, actually, which is awesome. And I'll keep it going all through November. So you can find it by going over to Katie Weaver, go over to one2listen.com and look for Katie Weaver, and you'll find it. But I'm going to put a link in the chat room too. So that is a 30-minute time-based session. And again, that is my November reading special. Okay. Then, of course, we have our crystal guidance from Christy. The crystal guidance this week is black tourmaline. Black tourmaline is a grounding stone, connects your root chakra to the earth, brings balance to the mind, body, and spirit, protects from low vibrating energies. Black tourmaline is a rock star in the crystal healing family. It's an absolute must-have, seriously. Okay, and then of course Christy brings to us her Kindred Spirits Energy Oracle deck, and this is the card this week is Pele. Pele, of course, the volcano goddess, the Hawaiian volcano goddess. Primary message: things falling apart, the old falling away, new growth, new foundation, allowing change, stop resisting, nothing lasts forever, and the root chakra. The challenge is fear, rigid thinking, avoidance, resistance. The crystal is obsidian, and the meditation is, Dear Pele, please guide me through the storm. Help me accept change and see destruction as an opportunity to rise again in a better way. It's an awesome card and a really good message. Okay, Kai's Kaleidoscope this week is our animal guidance for the month. She always brings us animal guidance at the first of the month. The animal guidance this month is the tiger. She had some awesome things to say about the tiger. Definitely take a peek. The tip this week is for grief and loss. And so this is an essential oil suggestion for grief and loss if you're going through some of those times. Rosewood, bergamot, and cypress. You can use them as a team. You can use them on their own. You can rub them into your heart chakra. You can diffuse them. But they are oils that are really, really powerful in bringing some comfort to a grieving heart. My personal go-to is rosewood and bergamot, actually. But cypress, oh, cypress is so good. Cypress is so good at helping you to let go. So good. If you're going through a big change or transition, cypress is your oil. All right. Little note about special radio appearances this month. The mediumship panel was Friday and it was fabulous. I hope that you guys came. I know I saw a lot of you guys in our chat room. I was so thrilled with how it went. We had such a great opportunity to visit. You never know when you get 4 people together, how much, if the conversation will stay on target, if you can keep steering your ship in the right direction. We did. I felt like it was awesome. Our chatters were really good. I loved it. So there's a link there so that you can listen to the archive if you missed it, or if you just want to listen again. I'll post it in the chat room as well, though. But that was such an awesome show. Okay. Anything else before we move on? Brittany's article this week is called No Offense. I loved it. She said, you know how people say no offense right before they say something offensive? We've all done it. Makes me laugh. It's something we learned at some point, I guess, right? Is that saying no offense makes it okay to say, only it doesn't. Dr. Elisa's article this week, sometimes the only way to get unstuck, to truly let go, is through personal revolution and chaos. Breathe deeply and move through the changes. Chaos reorganizes our life at a new spiritual level. There is light at the end of this challenge. Such a great article, a good reminder that it's only change and you are safe and it's a good change. Sometimes we ask for change and as soon as it happens we go, oh, why is this change happening? Well, you asked for it and stuff. But I loved what she had to say. And by the way, it is the first of the month starting tomorrow. So on Friday, Dr. Elisa will be in the 1-2 Originals time slot with her creativity show. And it looks like she has a guest this week that looked really interesting. So definitely hang out for that. On Fridays we have this awesome new lineup because, of course, we have Simple Tales with C.A. Brooks. And then we have our brand new Katie Bray. This will be her 3rd week, I believe. And then 1-2 Originals. And of course, Elisa has it this week. And then our brand new show is Aubrey Lindros. It's Mindful Musings, I think, with Aubrey Lindros. And last week was her debut show and she was great. So I'm excited. Fridays sometimes turn into a dinosaur and Friday is back with a vengeance. I love it. Our Magic Monday message from Melissa Caprio is, I am home, sweet home. Beautiful postcard. And then lastly from Anita, our master this week is Merlin, Merlin the Wizard. Merlin is an ascended master that you can call on for help with alchemy, with magic, with creating. So read what she has to say about Merlin and tune into him. That's pretty cool. All right, well, that is Luminous this week. A lot of information. I hope you have a chance to read all of the articles. Lots of good stuff. Okay, I'm going to jump into the chat room really quick and then we'll keep moving here. We did go to our witch's tea, Christy and Kara and I, on Friday night, and we had a ball. You probably saw some of our pictures on Facebook, but we had an awful lot of fun. So, also, I told a joke from it on 1-2 News. So if you have not listened to an archive of 1-2 News, you might want to, because we got way into it. I'll tell you that. Alrighty. Okay, well, probably time to go ahead and do our weekly reading. So this is a reading, of course, that comes from my Ground, Bless, Protect, and Move deck. And sometimes I have the cards pre-pulled, and I don't today because I'm going to blame Skype, you guys. I think you know that our hosts around here have are in a space of deep loathing of Skype quite frequently. But so I'll just quickly pull our cards here so that we have a sense of what do we need to know for spiritual self-care this week. Just looking for a ground card. So, okay. All right, so as you know, this is my deck. You can find more about it over on my website, but this is the deck that I wrote with my sisters that we published last year. It's a 5-card spread dealing with spiritual self-care in several different ways. All right, so the ground card this week is a dark crystal. Love it, because of course Christy gave us the black tourmaline this week, and black tourmaline is in my book the best grounding stone there is. But of course there's obsidian, there's jet, there's garnet, there's red jasper, there is smoky quartz, there's obsidian. Did we say that? There's a lot of different grounding stones, so you pick what works for you. But carrying a dark stone is one of the most grounding and easy grounding thing to do. And maybe because the energy the last couple of weeks has felt a little discombobulated, this is probably a good thing. Okay. The bless card is the third eye. So third eye, of course, chakra right here, middle of your forehead. And how do you bless your third eye? Well, easy, right? I've told you guys a million times, but I'll say it again, that I think the most powerful blessings you can receive are the ones you give yourself. So you put your hands over your third eye and you think about, what is it that I would bless my third eye with? Would I like it to be more balanced, more open, more clear, more connected? What is it? And then speak those things. I personally would say something like, I bless my third eye to be open and clear, to provide me as a hollow channel for my clients and those I come in contact with daily, and myself. Something like that, probably. And then I like to anoint with an essential oil to seal in your blessing. And for the third eye, I really like lavender, actually. Chamomile's good too, but lavender's awesome. 1 drop right across the third eye, and you're done. Okay. Talisman. This is the protect card, is the talisman. Talismans can be many things. Talismans can be a necklace, they could be a little effigy, they could be a coin. It's something that you pick up along the way, perhaps that someone gives you, or that you inherit, or that you purchase, or that you find that feels protective to you. You will bless it, so you'll hold it in your hands, speak into it, and bless it with whatever you want it to do. I would probably say something like, I bless this talisman to hold an energy around me of peace, of unconditional love, and only allow love into my direct space. Something like that, probably. But trust yourself and, bless it with whatever it is you need it to do specifically. Maybe you want it to create an energy around you that pushes your coworker Tom 10 feet back. You decide, but that's how you use a talisman, and then you wear it every day or carry it every day somewhere on your person and let it do its work. All right, the move card is dance. It is Halloween. Are you going dancing? I'm not. Not at all. Nope. Not even. But dance is easy, right? You can turn up the music in your kitchen and dance with your kid, or dance with your kitty, or dance with yourself. But move your body. Moving your body helps to release stuck energy in your body, and it helps to amp up those happy hormones in your brain. So moving yourself is really important for spiritual self-care. And then get social. That is the boost card. This is a good time. I think this was our boost card last week, actually. This is a good time to reach out for some support. Coffee with friends or a good chat on the phone would be good for you. Maybe you do something fun for Halloween tonight or within this week. Whatever, you decide, but don't be a hermit right now. Get a little social time. Okay, so there we go. So let's talk about our ghost stories. I'm going to take a quick look into the chat room right now. And again, if you want to share ghost stories with me, you are welcome to in the chat. I would love to share them. I wanted to talk a little bit first about what is a ghost. What is a ghost? Well, that's one of those questions that I think is really up for interpretation. To me, a ghost is a spirit that is without a body. That's all. Why is it a ghost? Well, has it crossed over? Maybe, maybe not. Does it belong to a body, but it's out wandering? Maybe. I have had that experience, and I'll tell you about it in a minute. So a ghost is simply a spirit without a body, for whatever reason. Some spirits cross over. You know, there's that old joke, you've heard it before, go to the light. Well, that light is a real thing. You read stories from people that have been through near-death experiences, and they all talk about it. I've seen it many times in my work. Yeah, there's a light, and yeah, you go to it, because through that light is where you will connect with your loved ones that have already passed. There's a hallway between here and there of sorts, and in that hallway some people make a decision not to cross over for various reasons. I've worked with people that were trying really hard to not be dead. I've worked with people who didn't know they were dead, that were very confused. I've worked with people who don't want to cross over because they're frightened. Lots of reasons. Sometimes we can find them in the hallway, or they find us and we know they're in the hallway and we help gather them up and help them cross over. Sometimes they won't. My first ghost story today is about my great-grandmother. Her name is Bernice. She is in our old family home in a little tiny town in Idaho. Bernice, I didn't know her. She died long before I was born. Bernice must have been seriously challenged, very challenged, I'm assuming, with mental illness and perhaps a very rough set of circumstances. But one afternoon, she told her family she was taking a walk down by the creek, which she did. And while she was down there, she poured a can of gas over her head and set herself on fire. And that's how Bernice died. It is profoundly sad, and it was a horrific experience for her family. And she is still in that old family home. She won't go. I've worked with her many times, and she won't go. She's very afraid. She is convinced that she's definitely going to hell for what she did, so she's just not leaving. She doesn't really like kids in her house. And when I was a kid, we would go there and we'd stay there. My dad loved to fish, and so that house is not too far from the Salmon River. And so we'd end up there because he was going fishing. And the house itself is just freaking terrifying. And Bernice doesn't like kids. And she really didn't like kids in her parlor, which by all accounts, my understanding is when she was living, children weren't allowed in the parlor. That's where her nice furniture was. It's where all of her nice things were, and kids weren't allowed in there. Well, we were allowed in there because the house is very small, and well, you had to be able to go in the parlor or there was really nowhere to be. But at any rate, she didn't like kids in there. And you'd go in the parlor and feel very cold and feel very uncomfortable and feel like you were being forced out of there. My aunts and uncles, however, have reported many times sleeping in that house and waking up in the morning with more blankets on them than they went to bed with. So there's a maternal side of Bernice. She's trying, you know. Lots of experiences like that. Experiences that they had with things coming up missing and then turning up later in the center of a made bed. Stuff like that. But it chilled me to the bone when, as an adult, we went there. And I was holding my youngest daughter, she was about 3 at the time, on my hip. And we were standing outside of the house. And we weren't staying there. We were just there. We were passing through for the day. And my adorable little daughter points at the door to the house and said, "Who's that?" And I turned and I looked and I said, I don't know, who's that? And she pointed again. She said, that grandma lady. And I went, oh God, she's seeing Bernice. And in the moment I thought, Bernice wasn't angry. She wasn't trying to kick us out at that time, at least. She was seeing the babies. She was seeing the little kids. And our little saw her. It chilled me a little because I know Bernice can be mean, but I thought it was kind of sweet too that she saw her. So that's my first ghost story, and that's about a ghost who's not crossed over. Once I was working with a family who the kids kept reporting seeing a grandpa standing in the doorway to the living room where they were watching TV. And he would just stand there watching them, probably watching TV, just wandering around. And nobody was afraid of him. He was a very gentle soul in their house, but they were curious about why he was there, because it wasn't like he was just peeking in for a visit here and there. He was there all the time. And so I did some work on their house, and I did encounter him, and he showed me that he was waiting for his wife to come home. He said he wasn't feeling well, and she told him to lay on the couch and have a nap, that she'd go buy groceries and be back in a while. And he's been waiting for her to come back. Well, what he didn't seem to understand or realize is that he died. He died in his sleep. When she came home with the groceries, he had passed. She's been gone for many, many years. And yet he's been hanging out, waiting for her to come back. He was really confused. And once I could help him get the timeline straightened out and figure it out, he crossed right over. He wanted to be with his wife. He was waiting for her. And that sweet thing was waiting for him, just through another door. So that was the sweet and easy one, you know, to be able to connect them together. But so I wanted to share some of my stories, but I also really wanted to share some others with you guys. So, or some of your stories that you shared with me. So my friend Calissa told me, she said, I'd like to share this one because it happened in Pocatello, Idaho. I stayed in an apartment used for rail workers 100 years past. Once upon a time, I lived in an apartment there for 90 days. After I left once, she left for a night, and then she came back and her candle started a fire. She woke up and a woman from the 1920s was sipping a martini and asked me what I was doing in a brothel. And after, walked straight through a wall in an elegant dress from an era of Casablanca, carrying that martini with olives. The next day, she asked the owner about the building, and he told her it was apartments for rail workers and prostitutes many years past. So, the spirits of one of those ladies was, I would imagine, just coming back for a visit, maybe. Maybe she's just still there. People ask me sometimes if spirits get stuck, if they get tied to a place and they're not allowed to leave. Not usually. But I feel like sometimes they don't know really where else to go, and so they stay. I see lots of spirits who come back and visit where they lived. They don't necessarily stay there all the time. Usually they don't, but they will come back and check it out. There is a very old, about 100-year-old theater not far from us that we did some ghost hunting and haunting work with many years ago. And there had been reported by many people that there was a girl in a long green dress, like a 20s or 30s era green dress, that would wander around the theater and the upper area of the theater sobbing and crying, and you could hear her. And we were friends with the gentleman who was a janitor there. So he would be there alone and at night, and he said that she was frequently wandering around crying. And so I wanted to know, why was she so sad? And what could we do to help? And so we did some work there, and I did connect with her in the upstairs ladies' bathroom. They had a fainting couch up there, and I sat on the fainting couch, and I called her in and asked her to come and talk to me, and she did. And what she relayed to me is that she was had been dating. At the time, that theater was for the debutantes of town, for the wealthy people. She was not one, but she somehow managed to find herself dating someone who was quite a bit above her financial status. And he was taking her to these parties, and he'd bought her this fabulous dress. And so she would wear this beautiful green dress. They were going to all of these parties and shows, and it was a life that she had never even dreamed of. And she loved him. She really loved him. And then he broke up with her and just completely devastated her. They were engaged. And she was completely devastated. And she killed herself. And she still wanders around that theater crying about her lost love and looking for him. And I explained to her, that nearly 100 years have passed and it's time for her to go. She wasn't hearing that at all. She wasn't going to go. I'm not going to make her. I probably can't make her, And that's her prerogative, but at least now we know why she's crying, what she's looking for. She was just still hoping to reconnect with him somehow. Pretty interesting. I was at a home that's over 100 years old, recently doing some animal communication. And the owners relayed to me that there's some spirits in that house, but that they don't bother them, so they're fine with them being there. I hear that from people a lot, and that is fine. And they told me that, anyway, I said, oh, it's an older lady. And they said, yes, it is. We see her sometimes. And she relayed to me that she likes to come there because it was her home. And she likes to see what it looks like. She likes to see what they've done with it. She likes to feel the peace there. And she likes to remember all of the happy times that she had there in her life. She's not stuck there. She's not there forever, nothing like that. But she is there sometimes because she wants to be. And they, of course, were very gracious about that and have no problem with her being there. So it's a nice little marriage, right? Of people sharing space, I think. Some people, if they sense a spirit or an entity in their home, they want it gone right now for whatever reason. Years ago, I worked with a single mom with a young daughter, and she said that there was an older couple in her home, and that she wanted to know why and what they were doing there. And so I tuned in to the home. I worked with the people. Absolutely darling little older couple, little grandparents. Well, they loved her daughter. They had loved her since she was a baby. They were frequenting this house. It had been their house at some point, I think. But they sure weren't haunting it or, doing... They loved her. They loved their baby, who was now probably 8. But they had been there all along, being a part of her life and loving her and being an extra set of grandparents to her. And it was extremely sweet. And when I shared this with the mom, she confirmed that there had been a million times when either the baby started crying in her bedroom and then immediately stopped as if somebody was already soothing her, or that as a toddler and a little one, she was always playing with people mom couldn't see. And she said, I have always thought that there were benevolent spirits around her. I just didn't know who they were. It was these two. I wasn't even convinced that they had like an ancestral connection to her. They just adored her and were there for her. It was such a sweet experience. Okay, a couple more ghost stories from colleagues. I've got a couple of really cool ones from colleagues. This one comes from Elisa Robin. So she said, I was on a month-long outward bound trip, and we were camped one night in the Oregon Cascades. I had a dream I was flying. When I woke up, I was laying sideways across the feet of my 3 tent mates. We were sleeping like sardines due to the cold, and there was no maneuvering room. I was still in my sleeping bag, so I spent some time sliding around and finally got back into my spot and went back to sleep. When I woke up the next morning, one of my tent mates looked at me and said, I dreamed you were flying last night. Isn't that wild? She was flying, I don't know if a ghost helped her do that or what, but she was definitely flying. How interesting, Elisa. And then Elisa also told me, she said, my bedroom at my family home was haunted. Several friends had a seance in my room, and when we asked for a sign, all of the window shades shot up. I would always lose things and then ask the ghost to return them, leave the room, and would come back to find the missing items in the center of my desk. She said, and the ghost would chase people out of my room by tossing pillows at them when I was not there. So she was the only one allowed in there. That's so awesome, Elisa. And I love, it wasn't scary, was it? It was another benevolent spirit that I think was very attached to you. That's so wild. Okay, Brittany says, this is Brittany O. She said, we used to live in a little house by the train tracks, and it was totally haunted. Apparently there had been a murder-suicide there, where the husband came home and found his wife in bed with someone in the attic bedroom. That was my bedroom, and we lived there from the time I was 1.5 until I was about 6. When I was little, my dad was home with me, and I was upstairs, and he heard me talking to my mom in my bedroom. He didn't think anything of it until my mom actually walked in the front door. She'd been grocery shopping for over an hour. I love it. Brittany, that's awesome. And of course, she's been seeing and talking to spirits ever since. Okay, jumping in the chat room. I love all of these stories. There are an occasional scary story associated with spirits. I know that. But I'll tell you what, I've heard more affirmative stories, peaceful stories, than I've ever heard scary stories when it comes to the other side. And it's still sometimes a little chilling. I agree, but really. Christy said, my kitty Skittles haunts me. It's a cute haunting. She was a bobtail. Her tail was black and fluffy, kind of like a bunny. I see her skitter around the corners in my house. She has a sweet, darling little girl, and I was heartbroken when she died. It does my heart good to see her. That's awesome. And yeah, they do. They just see her little flashover going around the corner here and there, hanging around, letting the other kitties know what's up. So cool. My cousin, Reese, has recounted to me several times he had an old dog named Lurch, of all things. Who names their dog Lurch? Well, my cousin Reese does, that's who. And he loved Lurch. Lurch was a blue heeler, a red heeler. I think it was a red heeler. Yeah. Anyway, and Lurch was his pal and his buddy and helped him run cows and was right, with him all the time for many, many, many years. And Lurch got old, and Lurch would sleep in the yard all day, every day. And one day Lurch went to sleep in the yard and never woke up. And Reese was heartbroken and still is over Lurch. Every time he talks to me about Lurch, and it's probably been 10 years, he still tears up. Lurch was a huge part of his life. And anyway, he told me still every once in a while when he comes home from work and his headlights pan the yard, he can see Lurch sleeping in that same spot. He's just around, and he always will be, because he's indelibly connected to Reese. He might be haunting him for naming him Lurch. I don't know. I should tell him that. Should I tell him that? I probably should. I'm kidding. He wouldn't believe me anyway. All right, going down the chat room. Tara says, how do I pick one ghost story? I've seen ghosts since I was a child. Not as many now as I set a boundary about 10 years ago, but so many ghost stories. Sleep paralysis, shadows in the night, critters, and more. Sounds about right. Pamela says, hate sleep paralysis. Happened to me a few times. Goes against my control freak nature. What sleep paralysis is that your body wakes up before your brain does. So you're out of sync. And so your body, because your brain basically does paralyze you, shuts down your systems, like your large motor systems when you're sleeping, some of them, to not put any energy into them, right? That's how you sleep and get rest. And sometimes in some people, their body wakes up sorry, their brain wakes up before their body does. And so your eyes can open, you're conscious and aware, but your body cannot move. It is a terrifying experience. And people that suffer from sleep paralysis know that it's very scary. But that's the science of it. From the science world, that's the science of it. It's that your brain wakes up before your body does. And you basically just have no choice but to breathe through it until you can move, until your body wakes up. I learned that from watching The Haunting of the Hill House, which I do not recommend to anyone ever. Some of you will probably watch it and you'll wonder why in the world I'm such a wuss, but I was terrified. Okay. Jessica said, I heard an interesting definition of a ghost. It was defined by a ghost being the manifestation of a person's mental and emotional self. The person's spirit and body has moved on, but there were strong feelings and thoughts still here in the spirit physical world. I've heard that definition before too, Jessica, and I think sometimes that's true. One thing Christy and I have found before is what doesn't really seem to be a spirit, but is an energetic pattern that keeps playing out over and over in a certain space. For example, once on a ghost tour in Seattle, we were touring the Seattle Underground ghost tour, because they have like the city under the city. And a few different sites that they showed us, they were saying that people always see at the same time of day this certain apparition. And I was like, so is that really a ghost? And I didn't feel like it was a ghost. I felt like, and this is just one of many examples, but I felt like, no, it was just the energy of that thing happening over and over again. But I did want to tell you an experience that I had with an uncle once. I had an uncle who was going in a different state, going in for a knee replacement. And so my mom had told me that morning, hey, just so you know, Buzz is going in for a knee replacement. I'll let you know when he's out of surgery and he's doing well and blah, blah, blah. Well, about noon, I'm walking through my kitchen and there's Buzz. It startled me half to death. And he said, hey, Kate, just like you normally would. And I said, what are you doing here? And he acted kind of hurt. He said, I'm just coming to say hi. And I thought, oh my God, he died in surgery. And I said, why are you here? And he said, well, I just came to say hi, that's all. So it's like, okay, well, hi. And he left. He didn't really stay any longer than that. And I thought, oh, you've got to be kidding me. So I called my mom, and she was a school teacher. And so you couldn't really just get an instant answer from her. I called her, I texted her and said, what have we heard? And a couple hours later, she called me back and she said, he's fine. He's out of surgery. I heard about an hour ago that he's out of surgery and resting well and everything went fine. And I was like, what the hell was that? And so I went within. I did a lot of work. I talked to some psychic friends and I said, what was that? Well, he was out of body during his surgery. He was out of body wandering around. Was he a ghost? I would say yes. He was at that moment because he was out of his body. He came to say hi. Terrified me. I was trying to shove him back in his body at that point, right? But so it is possible for living people to sometimes be a ghost because for whatever reason they might have left their body for a little while. Anyway, pretty interesting stuff. But we've done what we do. We've talked down to the end of the show. I want to thank you guys all for being here. I want to thank you for sharing your stories with me. I want to let you know that you can find Christy and I again here in just a couple of hours, guest hosting for Melissa Caprio on the Postcards to the Universe show. We're going to be talking about dark entities. I would love for you to join us. Have a fun, safe, happy Halloween. I'll definitely see you here tomorrow with the Psychic Sisters at 11 a.m. Pacific. You are listening to 1-2 Radio, where we're changing the way you listen to the world.